parenting and teenagers, of course, with Coach Tafadzwa, who is a coach for teenagers. We continue with the topic that we started last week, high school transition. It is part 2. Coach, good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. How was your weekend?
Well, my weekend was awesome. I had fun.
That's good. So let's get straight into it. We're also live on Facebook. You can join the conversation. And let's get into it, Coach.
Yeah, so last week we started a conversation about high school transition, and like I explained last week, I thought it was an important time to talk about it, because sometimes I talk about this maybe after grade 7s have already written their exams, and some parents would say, we should have known earlier. So I thought I would talk about it earlier so that parents would have more time to actually prepare and start thinking about high school if their children are in grade 7. You know, I feel like sometimes people love this "we will cross the bridge when we get to it" mentality, which does not help at all, because when you then want to cross the bridge when you've gotten to it, there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of desperation. You may realize that there are things that you could have carried along that would have helped you had you thought about it earlier. So it's always important to be proactive. It's always important to anticipate challenges ahead and to prepare for them in time. So today my main focus is actually on choosing the right school or the best school for your child. But before I go into that, there's just one point that I want to add on to what we were discussing about last week. So grade 7s typically finish writing in October, and they'll have the rest of November, December to themselves. They can play, they can do whatever they have, so they've got all this free time to themselves. And it's one particular time or phase of their life where they're going to have that amount of free time. They may never have that free time again in their teenage phase. So it's important to actually think purposefully about how they can use that time, particularly if you felt that your child is not yet ready for Form 1. So maybe the way they were performing, you actually knew that there are areas that still need work. It could be areas to do with their confidence. This is the time that you can then use to actually help build their confidence. And if you noticed from their performance that there are certain subjects that they had not mastered the concepts, yes, they've already written their exams, but you should understand that grade 7 isn't the end of education. They're going to go to Form 1. So if they didn't learn the basics in in grade 7, then even when they go to Form 1, they're going to struggle. Why not take advantage of that 2-month period to actually maybe find a teacher who would help them so that they catch up, so that when they get to Form 1, they now have the basics and they will easily be able to catch up with the rest of the students. And then the last thing that I'll talk about, which is important, is the ICDL, which is an International Computer Driver's License. That one is very important, particularly in this age, depending also on the school that your child will be going to. If in their primary school they had not acquired this driver's license, then it's important for you to use that time also to just help them to be computer literate. You know, sometimes we make the assumption that our children are literate because we see them playing on gadgets, playing games and all that. And but when it comes and we think they know everything, but when it comes to the important academic stuff, be it using Excel, PowerPoint, and making presentations, things like which may be required depending on the school that your child will be going to Form 1. They may be clueless, and we're not even talking about kids. They are adults who know everything about TikTok, social media, but when it comes to these basics, you would see a document made by an adult and you would wonder, okay, this is the kind of stuff that you're actually producing. So it's important to just make sure that your child is up to date, because if they haven't learned this and they go to a school where it is required, the teachers may not be patient enough to teach your child. And you don't want that for your child. Now to the main subject of the day, which is choosing the right high school for your child. The first point that I want to share, and this is something that many people rarely consider, and it's relationship with your child. So it's very important to consider the impact of the type of school or the school that you're sending your child to will have on your relationship with your child, particularly if it is boarding school. I know there are some schools who my visits. and they don't allow even phone calls. They don't allow any form of communication between the child and the parent. And sometimes I wonder, so what is the purpose? What's the benefit of it? Because a child will spend, if they're going in boarding school from Form 1 to Form 6, it means those 6 years of their lives, they're only going to be coming back home maybe for a month holiday. And sometimes it's not even a month long, because there's also vacation in between. Mm-hmm. So out of the 6 most crucial years of their teenage life, where they're becoming an individual, where they're becoming an adult, as a parent, maybe you only have less than a year to make an influence or to make an impact in their lives. And I don't understand that. So I think it's important to consider the school that you're sending your child to, the impact that it will have on your relationship. Sometimes I actually feel sorry for certain teenagers or students. I know and they're going to a school, is any form of communication. And then maybe that whole term there's no communication. Maybe towards the end of the term something happens. The mom passes on, or the dad passes on, and that's the only time that they're now able to go back. Yet had it been a school that also understands Kuti, apart from academic side of things, during a teenager's life there's also other relationships that are important and that needs to be given time and attention, they would have given opportunity for children to talk. Of course, I'm not saying boarding schools should just give every child a cell phone and let them play whenever they want, but that communication, especially with parents, is important. And then number 2, academic reputation. So it's important to consider the academic reputation of the school that you're sending your child to. So you're looking at the teaching staff. Are they qualified? Do they retain the same teaching staff? Longevity, because if a teacher stays at a school for a long time, then obviously they get to understand the subject better, and also they now know how to use the resources at hand within that particular environment for maximum effectiveness. But if teachers are always coming and going, that impacts on how the children are learning. And when you're looking at academic reputation, you're not only looking at the statistics, or you should be able to analyze that data and see, is the school passing because teach static, or is it passing because they take students who are already intelligent? Because all the students who are going there are coming from within the system, or this school is just one of those examination centers where they get schools from other places who actually come and write. So you need to fully understand. And sometimes I hear casual conversations. Sometimes people actually compare schools that have different curricula. So you can't even compare. They're not like put in the same group. And you're saying Chikoro is better than this one. Yet they are actually using a different syllabus, different curricula. So you then need to actually do your own research, and your research should be an intelligent one. And you're not just hearing from hearsay, but you're actually maybe going to the schools. There are schools right now that are already doing open days for my grade 6s who will be going to Form 1 in 2025, because their assumption is that if your child is in grade 7, you've already secured a place and everything for your child, that you've already made your decision. So it's important to actually be proactive and do these things early, because when you do these things early, you are better informed. And then point number 3 to consider, here I called it alumni network and university placements. Mm-hmm. So if your child goes to a school that has a very strong alumni network, chances are these former students are now in maybe different countries, different places. They are in positions of authority, they've got contacts, so they can help your child also for university placements, getting jobs and all that, because the school is known. And because of this vast and big network of former students, they can actually assist even the younger students, even in terms of donations and all that. So that's another important effect to consider. And then the next one here is facilities and resources. So consider where your child is going, particularly if the school is new. Do they have labs? Do they have sports facilities? Things like that, because that environment can actually enhance your child's learning. If the facilities are there and they are in good condition, then that definitely enhances your child's education and they'll be able to learn better. The next thing to consider that I wrote down here is safety and discipline. So it's important also to consider, is my child going to be safe? I've already mentioned that there are some schools where as a parent you don't have direct access to even your child. You don't even know what is happening there.
So are you okay with that?
Yeah, because I've actually had to deal with certain incidences where a child comes back for the parents to realize that Mwana is not in a good state. Things have been happening, but the school didn't inform. They were just dealing with everything there. So that becomes a problem. So you want to understand with what's happening at the school, and in terms of discipline, Panima disciplinary issues like and if they come out, how are students, how is it dealt with? Because sometimes schools are treated as businesses. So you're afraid that if you suspend a lot of students or chuck out a lot of students, then it means it impacts on the profits of the school. Because 2,000. So when a 5 or others minus 10,000. So schools may not want that.
Yes.
So they just keep everyone. So they just keep everyone. So you also need to look into all of that and see, am I taking my child into the right kind of environment? And then extracurricular curricular activities also. Is there sport? Are there clubs? Because we go to school not only for the academic side, but to learn life in general. And some of what we've become in life maybe came about as a result of what we learned in clubs or what we learned through sport. Maybe you were in the debate club, that's when you discovered your talent to speak, and then that's where the passion for becoming a radio presenter or something like that came. It came from that extracurricular activity. So it builds you as a person, and it's important to also look into an environment that will provide those other opportunities for your child. And then I'd mentioned academic reputation, and this point is related to that. You also want to look at the class size and student-teacher ratio. And our 60 teacher one, obviously, if your child is not one of those intelligent ones, supernaturally intelligent ones, it may be difficult for them to be noticed within that big group, and for them to be helped, because it also becomes overwhelming for the teacher to try and give individualized attention to such a large group. You can imagine 70 students, 60 students. So you want to look at that. And I do understand when I'm talking about that the other factor that a lot of parents would want to use it as an excuse is but I want to say this, for the same amount of fees or money that you can pay, there are always options. For Maria winner, there are always options.
Better options. If you plan in good time.
Yeah, if you plan in good time.
If you plan in good time.
I would share my experience a bit. The school that I went to for junior high school, it had a very bad reputation in the community. And then because we grew up hearing this, we also went to the school with the mentality that this is a bad school. And then I decided to move to another school, which was the same range, in terms of the fees and everything. I moved to a different school for my A-levels. That's when I appreciated the school that I was coming from. That school was actually, right.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I could do it right. The headmaster was very strict. So he took good care of the school, the lawns, well manicured, everything was just on point. So that strictness is what a lot of people actually didn't like about the school. And then then I'm going to the school and thinking, I should have stayed at that school. So I gave that just to highlight the fact that even there are different options. And if you plan and if you go, some parents I would ask them and say, where do you want to take your child to? And say, I'm like, because they didn't do enough research. They just haven't at the back of their mind. They haven't researched.
As an afterthought sometimes.
Yeah. So that becomes a problem. Please think about the schools you want to send your children to, and start moving around now if you want. Don't do it. Don't leave it for the last minute. Because what happens is if you take your child to the wrong school, Form 1 is critical. At that time, they're very vulnerable. Drugs because they got hooked to the wrong crowd. Their first days in Form 1 and their lives were damaged for good. So it's important to be proactive and to do this in time. Anyway, before I go, I'll just give my number. If you're a parent, you've got a grade 7 child or a teenager or preteen, and you want to be part of our WhatsApp groups, my WhatsApp number is 0773-606-728. I'll give it for the last time, 0773-606-728.
Coach Tafadzwa, we appreciate you so much, always opening our eyes to relevant information that we need. We're live on Facebook. You can go watch it, rewatch it. Teamzim.com. We'll get to do this again next week, same time. Star FM, check your time with mine, 11 o'clock. It is time for the news.